One Bass's Jelly Baby has 20 calories. How much mass would need to be lifted at a height of 1 meter on Earth for the change in gravitational potential energy to equal the chemical energy represented by the 20 calories in one Jelly Baby? Now, I said calories. The way I've written that there, I've actually followed the convention for a particular defined unit that is equivalent to the food calorie that is commonly seen on labels, and it is the word calorie with a capital C, which is actually different than the unit that is meant by the word calorie with a lowercase c. That's common to state it that way in the United States. In other countries, it's maybe a bit more common to actually use the term kilocalorie for the food calorie. But it's worth stating that that 20 calorie we're given there is actually equivalent to 20,000 of the lowercase c calories. And I'm not going to pluralize that here because I'm meaning this. It's kind of like when you write 20,000 meters, you actually just write m for meter, right? So there's no need to pluralize in a mathematical statement, I think. If I multiply this by 4.1, make sure to keep the 1 in there, 4.184 joules per calorie, I'll just abbreviate it there. That will tell me how much energy this represents using the conventional mechanical unit of energy, the joule. And the result that my calculator gives for this is 83,680 joules. Let me make that 6 look a little bit better there. Okay, hopefully we can all read that. So that's the amount of energy that this represents. And what we see described here in the question is how much mass would need to be lifted, assuming, and I think the way to state this maybe is that if I took all of that energy, this really is the chemical energy that's in the Jelly Baby, and if I could convert all of that into the amount of work needed to lift an object up a height of 1 meter, how big would that object be? In other words, for a height of 1 meter, how much gravitational potential energy is equivalent to this? So one way of looking at that is to say, well, if we set this equal to an mgh, where I'm going to assume that h is equal to 1 meter, what's the amount of mass that corresponds to that? So solving for mass there, if I divide both sides by gh, I would get that mass should be equal to 83,680 joules divided by G times H, which would be equivalent to 83,680 divided by, since G is equal to 9.81, we can just put that in there, 9.81 meters per second squared, and then multiplied by 1 meter. The multiplication by 1 doesn't really do anything. I've kind of left the units off here because I think what's going to happen is when we do joules divided by meters per second squared times a meter, I think that should turn out to give me something in kilograms. So in other words, I'm just going to maybe cheat and put that there. So in my calculator, when I put that into my calculator, I get a mass of about 8,530 kilograms, which sounds pretty big. Maybe for reference, in mass pounds, that is, if you multiply by 2.2 pounds per kilogram, that winds up being 18,766 pounds, which is a lot. I think that's larger than the gross vehicle weight rating of many large trucks, RVs, that kind of thing. So wow, who could have imagined there was that much energy in a Jelly Baby? One of the things, though, we're going to learn about in the next chapter is that when a human consumes food like a Jelly Baby, which maybe is not the healthiest thing to subsist off of, but we are not, or really nowhere near 100% efficient in using all of that energy. But if we could be, it would mean we'd be able to, from eating one Jelly Baby, right, we'd be able to do work equivalent to lifting up something maybe like a large truck equal to a distance of 1 meter, which is kind of mind-blowing to think. Anyways, let's check the answer here. Hopefully we've been enjoying that picture of the Jelly Babies for long enough. I don't know if it's making anyone else hungry. So there we can see the 2 answers I wrote down, also listed in pounds. And maybe I'll leave it to you to decide who this character that suddenly showed up is, if you recognize him.